And we are live and on the air. Welcome to Omnibroslive. Special creator spotlight on Rick Remender. My name's Omnidog from Omnidog's Vault. And my usual Thursday night co-hosts from A Week in Geekdom, Gio. Gio, how's it going?
Hi, Jess. Hi, Ryley. Hi, everybody in the chat and everybody watching wherever you may be. Happy to be here. Happy to talk about Rick Remender on today's show.
Right on. And the Omnibus collector himself, Ryley Mo. How you doing, buddy?
Always last, certainly least.
Right on, man. What a trio. And before we get this party started, let's not forget our sponsor, InStockTrades.com, where you can get your collected editions up to 50% off. Loyalty discounts add 2% to that. Tonight, we'll be announcing the Omnibroslive coupon code name for 3% off. It does not stack with the loyalty code, but put this in and you'll get 3% off.
Nice.
Not telling it to you yet. But you'll get rewarded if you stay with us. Because we finally got it. Order $50 or more, especially with that code, you get free shipping in the United States, fabulous customer service, fabulous packaging. That's InStockTrades.com.
Nice.
Thank you.
Fabulous books written by Rick Remender.
That's right.
Which we're going to talk about tonight.
Rick Remender books.
The man himself, who he worked on everyone's favorite Superman movie, Iron Giant.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that.
I've never seen that. What's going on with that? Oh, wait. I have to, before Kristan gets upset with me, I have to button up my shirt. Put that one off.
What?
Okay, there we go. Kristan,
The Silver Fox does not need to button the top button.
Kristan jams me up. She sees my
Keep
top
jamming.
button unbuttoned.
Keep jamming.
So wait, what now? Iron Giant? He helped. He would. He helped write Iron Giant.
He was an animator on movies like The Iron Giant, Anastasia, Titan AE, Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle, before getting into comics. I think he actually did some artwork in comics early in his career before doing any sort of writing. Yeah, I'm looking right now. He did some inking for Avengers. He penciled some issues of TMNT. And then after that, he started getting into his career writing comics. He did a series Last Christmas. He drew that. Brian Posehn and Gary Dugan wrote the series. Of course, Posehn and Dugan of Deadpool fame, if we're talking about Marvel books. And then, yeah, he did a ton of different stuff, and I know a ton of different stuff that we're probably going to be talking about tonight.
I had no idea he was an illustrator like that. That's amazing.
Yeah. I don't have any of my books on me. I think the only Rick Remender book I have currently available to me somewhere in my closet is his complete collection of Secret Avengers. But aside from that, I'm just going to be giving commentary on everything.
And I tried to pull everything I could that you guys were telling me about, so I'll be the book holder as you guys commentate. So, and there's my boy PollyP. What's up, PollyP? So also, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to the Uncanny Omar, because I was up absolutely all night last night, and I knew I was going to be up all night. And Omar was a complete Omnibro. He stayed up like an extra 45 minutes at the beginning of my ordeal, and just was talking with me on the the private message board on the in the chat, and it was great. He was it really helped get my night off to a good start because I'm on pain meds and in pain, and I just knew that I was going to. Thank you, Kemi. I'm feeling better, but I pulled an all-nighter. Whenever I have after surgery, I've had enough surgeries that I know that first night home, I'm just going to be up all night with the pain and the pain meds, and I'm just going to be awake. And Omar was really cool. He just got my night off to a good start, just chatting with me and kind of talking me off the ledge. And I just stayed up all night and read comic books the whole night, so it was good.
Well, thanks everyone for making me look like shit.
It's all right. He went to bed late.
Yeah, I was asleep, sound asleep, because I wake up at like 4 a.m. for work.
I could have kept you going this morning.
Yeah, if I had known, I would have started talking to you immediately.
Yeah.
When I woke up, I would have been like, "Hey, I'm jumping in the shower."
Yeah, I could have been your buddy.
Yep.
Could have been your shower buddy.
It'd be like we're in the locker room or something, man.
That's right. Snapping towels. Okay, so I had that was really actually interesting fact on. Thank you, Jesse Say What and Omnipool and Kemi. I appreciate that. All of your nice words. I appreciate that. Thank you. And RV Landerin, I appreciate that. Yeah, it was just a little minor tune-up that I got done. Okay. Rick Remender started out as an illustrator and worked his way into writing. I did not know that.
So fun facts for the night.
That's amazing.
So he did a lot of non like main Marvel stuff for a while, and that right now is back to what he's working on is working with Image and stuff. But for me, my personal first exposure, and I forgot to mention this series before we started, guys, from Marvel. My first exposure to Remender was actually from his Punisher run.
Oh, right.
He was the one that did the whole Frankencastle thing, and that's because I didn't read the beginning of his Punisher run, but I was getting all of those Dark Reign the List issues when they were coming out in singles, and Dark Reign the List Punisher is the one where Daken cuts him into pieces and throws him in the sewer. And I thought that story was so cool. I was like, wow, this was a really brutal, really interesting little twist. And then it says like to be continued in Frankencastle. And I thought, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. I have to own it. Like I have to buy it and I have to read this. And it was freaking ridiculous and everything that I wanted. And it had Tony Moore doing the early artwork of the Frankencastle stuff. And it was literally as it sounds. If you haven't read it, it's Frank Castle pieced together as a Frankenstein's monster type thing. And the monsters of the Marvel Universe who are living in this sewer type area. And this is me talking about it a decade or so after I've read it. So if I'm a little, unfamiliar because it's been a while, then I'm sorry. But they basically get him to help protect them. And it launches into a storyline with different plot lines and stuff like that, where he has, I think it's like the Bloodstone or something is keeping him together. They use some magic shit to keep his body running. And we see him eventually fight against, again, Daken. And then eventually, as obviously has happened, he turns back into a normal Frank Castle. But that was like his biggest part, the most popular part of Rick Remender's run on the Punisher. But he also, I think this is where Remender really made his name for being the guy that really, he tries to do something different with these characters. He really pushed to do something different with the Punisher. And even before then, he did a good job of trying to show a look at like how a character like the Punisher would work in a world full of superheroes. And I thought it was really interesting because one of the early arcs, it's basically just the Punisher taking on a bunch of like weapons from different superheroes. Like he gets Ant-Man's helmet, if I recall correctly, and like he shrinks down and like he's using that as he's I think he was like on the lam during the whole Dark Reign thing. So it was just this really interesting take on the Punisher, just how he can function in a world that's full of all these other characters with superpowers when he is just a soldier that kills people. So I thought it was really interesting take on the character.
I love how the two of you love the craziest stories. Like you love the Frankencastle story, and then Gio has been tooting the horn of Murder Falcon. You both been tooting Murder Falcon.
It's, I mean, from my point of view, like, yes, I love, you know, as Omar will say, smart comics.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Sorry.
I think that if you're gonna be a fan of comics, you're really doing yourself a disservice if you're not a fan of like the craziest shit that comics have to offer. Because that stuff is the stuff where you're like, this is what comics is all about. This is stuff that can only work. That's what I love. When you have something in any medium, you're like, this can only work in this medium.
Mhm.
Stories that can only work in comics, that can only work in something that's sequential art. And I'm not saying that that's what Rick Remender was doing with his Frankencastle thing, but in a way, yeah, that's a story that only works on a character that's been around since what, the 70s in the Spider-Man books.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like you take an established character like that and just turn it on its head in a way that really doesn't work anywhere else. Like, where else can you have a character like that, like the Punisher, and you can turn him into, you can find the story devices to make it somehow make sense to turn him into a patchwork monster. I don't think it can happen anywhere else.
Agreed.
I love it.
Plus, to me, Remender has sort of this punk-ish attitude to the way he constructs his characters, which I find very appealing, especially on his independent books.
Yeah, I pulled Deadly Class, and Deadly Class has a playlist that's a couple of playlists, I think it's got online that are if not super punky, super alternative, new wavy, that are really really cool. So he does have that sort of punk ethos going with him. What book can I hold up first? I mean, I've got a billion Remender books. I even pulled 7 to Eternity too, because I remembered about that.
Well, what I'm curious, because I mentioned that was my first introduction to him as a writer. Do you remember what your first Remender book was, yourself or Gio?
I think my first exposure was either Venom or I think Black Science, maybe.
Mine was definitely Uncanny XForce.
Nice.
This is one of the first Marvel books I ever owned. When it came out, Third Eye Comics is where I got it, and they shoved it at me and said, "You need to read this." So,
now, was that in singles, or was that in that omnibus format that they shoved it in your face?
They shoved it in my face 2 ways. First, the complete collections, and then I said, I'm into this omnibus collecting format now, and they said, "Oh, well, here's the omnibus." And so,
oh wow,
that was, I can't remember what year that was now. Whenever it came out, 2014. I don't remember when it came out now. But I immediately took to it. It wasn't the first. It was like New X-Men, Astonishing X-Men, and then Uncanny X-Force were the 3 books Third Eye gave me to get into X-Men and get into Marvel. So
well, it's a really fair trio of books, and they work really well together, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, so I always have a special place in my heart for those 3 books because they really made me love Marvel Comics, and I think gave me a super kind of bedrock to foundation, because they were 3 really different books, but even though they were 3 X books. But we did, I think one of the first Omnibro episodes we ever did was the first the first, what was it? Few issues. I can't remember now. It was the first Apocalypse issues.
The first half of the book was the first ever OmniBros book review on YouTube.
Yeah, I remember talking about what to read if you wanted like a primer for that, because like I was saying, you mentioned reading New X-Men as well, and I said that it works very well alongside this book, because this book, Uncanny X-Force, in that episode I explained how it has ties back to New X-Men, it has ties to Jason Aaron's work with Wolverine and stuff, and Jason Aaron's Wolverine and the X-Men was actually contemporaneous, if that's how you pronounce the word, with this book, and that you literally see characters jump between the pages. I think it's around issue 18 or 19 of this book, and it affects stuff that's happening in that other book.
In Jason Aaron's Wolverine?
Yeah, Wolverine and the X-Men. So Wolverine, it affects
Wolverine
it because
and the X-Men.
there's an issue in his Wolverine Omnibus, and it was another Dark Reign the List issue, Dark Reign the List Wolverine, which deals with the what was it? The world, and it deals with like those types of the other Weapon Plus things, which were a piece of Morrison's New X-Men, and that's why I harken back to that, because Morrison's New X-Men informed a lot of that, and you have a little hint of it in that Wolverine issue, because it has Wolverine teaming up with Phantom X, who winds up being a major character in this book, and then they go and deal with stuff with the world and Ultimatum and stuff like that. How do you pronounce his name? And that leads forward into this book. Specifically, we see a lot about that in the Deathlock Nation arc, which is the second arc of that book, with art by Esad Ribic. And that one has like you revisit the world. You have Father in there. Father winds up crossing over to Remender's work on Secret Avengers, which is also a big thing to mention, is that Remender's, all of his work at Marvel is very connected. There's connective tissue between pretty much all of the books, which is really cool. You don't get a lot of that from a lot of writers. Like, they usually just, each series kind of stays in its corner, but Remender kind of created his own little area of the Marvel universe at that time. And that really is what kind of, I was disappointed when he left Marvel, because he had been building everything up so well that when he pieced out, I was like, damn, like, we still got some satisfying writing from the people that followed up his material. But it's just, what could have been would have been nice. But yeah, Uncanny X-Force is something special. I hope that there's still some format out there that's accessible for people, and if not, maybe Omar can give his new best friend a nudge, and I
think I bet within a year we'll see a reprint of Uncanny X-Force.
Yeah.
I don't know about a year, unless there's something big happening with the X-Force. But I think that given that they're reprinting a big gun like Annihilation, we're definitely getting into the point where it seems like Marvel is being a lot more cognizant of the books that are not currently in print but are actively sought after.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if Daredevil and Annihilation are getting reprinted, anything's possible.
And if Peter David is getting an omnibus,
exactly,
literally anything is possible. So yeah, Uncanny X-Force, fantastic book, a great X-Men series. It kind of exceeds any sort of expectations that I ever had for an X-Force book specifically. And like I was saying, it has a lot of connections to his other X-Men or his other Marvel works. It is directly followed up by Uncanny Avengers, which follows up on the Apocalypse storyline by introducing the Apocalypse twins. But it's also followed up, as I mentioned, by his Secret Avengers run, uh, which ties into his Venom run because Secret Avengers winds up featuring Venom. And that he did not introduce the idea of Agent Venom of Flash Thompson, but he was the one that went running with it, and it worked out so well. I'm truly surprised that that run does not have an omnibus yet, but I feel like with the attention that Venom's getting and the fact that we have a sequel to the movie that is in development, that there's no reason we should not see an omnibus edition featuring Agent Venom and that beautiful artwork from Tony Moore, and I think who else? Mike Hawthorne might have some artwork in there. That was a special series. I think that was a point where Venom really started turning around as a character that Marvel and the creators there were aware of how much fans loved him, but the fact that most critically his books were never really seen as too positive. And we finally got something that was acclaimed by critics and fans, even if it took having a different character in the symbiote.
What happened to Eddie Brock when Flash Thompson became Venom?
Well, this was during that time. Eddie had been the anti-Venom for a while.
Oh, anti-Venom.
Eddie,
okay.
back during the time that JMS was writing the series, Eddie loses the symbiote because he has cancer, which may or may not have been retconned recently. But he has cancer. The symbiote can't feed off of him, so it leaves him. But some stuff happens during the whole Brand New Day era of Spider-Man, and he gets a new, thing, the anti-Venom suit. I don't remember that it's actually a symbiote or not. But Matt Gargan becomes Venom for a good amount of time, and then after the whole Dark Reign thing and stuff happens, and the government gets a hold of the symbiote, they give it to Flash Thompson and have him become Agent Venom. But later on in the Agent Venom series, we see Eddie Brock come back, and he actually gets the Toxin symbiote, which was like the quote unquote grandson of Venom, because it's the spawn of Carnage, and we see some hostility happen between Venom and Toxin for a minute. But I think that happened in Cullen Bunn's run. I don't think that was during the material.
Yeah, it was. I think it was Bunn. Yeah,
it might have been at the tail end of Remender.
I think Gio. I remember that was one of the first things Gio and I talked about was anti-Venom, because I was just getting into Marvel. I'm like, what can you tell me about? I think because I had the Marvel legend of him, and I'm like, who is this?
Yeah. I remember.
Yeah, that's anti-Venom. I'm like, what's his story? And so he tried to tell me, and I think I downloaded the issues from Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah, basically, if I remember correctly, anti-Venom happens because of Brock's white blood cells having like residue from his time as a Venom host, and him having cancer and all that stuff. It formed sort of the anti-Venom as a cure for the symbiote thing or whatever.
It has something to do with Negative Man.
Oh yeah,
I was just looking back into it, and I remembered that was around the time that Martin Lee was introduced. Was around that time with the New Ways to Die, storyline. That was one of the earlier storylines that Dan Slott wrote, and actually a really, really good Spider-Man story. There was I know that the Brand New Day era of Spider-Man gets a lot of flack, but there were some really good stories mixed in there with some clunkers.
And wait, what's the really good story?
New Ways to Die.
New Ways to Die.
There's also another really good, it's just a single issue, actually surprisingly by Mark Guggenheim, is the one where Flash loses, we see him come back from war and he's lost his legs, and it's kind of his emotional story.
Yeah, because I noticed he didn't have legs in this.
Yeah, the symbiote does give him legs when he puts it on, and during the time that he has it off, I think he wears prosthetics provided to him by the government. So when he's no longer working with the government, he winds up, or when he's off duty, he winds up in a chair during that time.
Okay, wait a minute. Is this AntiVenom and Venom in the same book? So I can read them both in this book then?
Yeah, so that would be Eddie versus Flash.
Okay, cool.
But
I still don't know enough about AntiVenom. I need to know.
Spoilers, if you keep reading like Spider-Man stuff, we see AntiVenom change hosts eventually.
Oh, okay.
But you gotta, if you enjoy the stuff that we're doing for our next review, you'll see that happen. If you keep reading past the stuff that we're getting for our IST review.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I get it now.
So yeah, his Venom's really great. X-Force is really great. Did you guys read Avengers, Secret Avengers?
I have not.
Did you read that, Chio?
Barely anything. Barely anything. A couple issues, but I never followed through with it.
I highly, highly recommend, especially if y'all enjoyed the other stuff, I highly recommend picking up. They released it as a complete collection recently, or the 3 individual collections should be pretty cheap at this point. I remember I got them previously for like a few bucks a piece. Really great storyline. It follows up on stuff that was in Uncanny X-Force. It features Flash Thompson as Venom. It also features a bunch of other characters. Hawkeye is part of the team. I think Giant Man, the original Human Torch, is in there. The Beast. It has a really great artwork from Gabriel Hardman, and then by Matteo Scalera of Black Science fame. So this is an earlier partnership between the two creators. Really good run. And then also I mentioned Avengers, Uncanny Avengers. That was followed by the not so enjoyed by most people Axis event, which I think is a Marvel, and probably DC too, but I guess I pay more attention to it with Marvel, has a really bad habit of taking something that seems like it was just like an individual creator's idea for a storyline for their own book, and they decide to expand it into a whole event. And expanding it into an event kind of lessens its effect, and it puts too much emphasis in there and winds up making it not so great. And I think that that's exactly what happened with Axis, because it should not have been a full 9-issue event with tie-ins. It should have just been an arc of that series. And then he followed that up with, there was both the original graphic novel Rage of Ultron, which was like one of the first things that we saw of what the Marvel Universe was going to be like post Secret Wars, which was really interesting. And then there was also Uncanny Avengers Volume 2, which featured artwork by Daniel Acuna and had a slightly different team of Uncanny Avengers, but it was ended prematurely. And then after Secret Wars, he didn't come back. So it was restarted with a new issue 1 by Jerry Dugan. which actually wound up being a really cool series. It had he followed up on plot lines from that series that Remender was doing from the Rage of Ultron stuff. So if anyone was reading all that and kind of curious about where you can continue reading what happened to those characters, what happened to Hank Pym, what happened to various members of his series, that read Jerry Dugan's material.
Is it collected yet?
It's not in any prestige format, but it does have a bunch of paperback editions. Uncanny Avengers.
Oh. I like those skinny Marvel trade paperbacks, so I like those because I can burn through them.
My only issue with those is that they're very commonly like not cut properly, and so I'll have like mismatched shelf stuff, like where something is like sticking out a little more, or is a little bit taller. And sometimes the spines are so skinny on the newer ones with the thinner paper that it's hard to I don't know. You can't read any
image.
You can't even get the name on it.
The Marvel logo is like barely there, because they made the papers a lot thinner. But yeah, there's 5 volumes. I think there's 6 volumes, and I think the 5th volume, there are 6 volumes of Uncanny Avengers Volume 3. 1 through 4, Secret Empire, United We Stand collects a couple issues, and then Volume 5. I think Secret Empire and I think Volume 5 are both written by Jim Zub, if I'm not mistaken. But the first 4 volumes are all Jerry Dugan's material that wraps up what Remender was doing. Pretty much most of Remender's plot lines from his Marvel work are wrapped up there. Everything else is wrapped up with Nick Spencer's work on Captain America, which was the whole Hail Hydra Cap, all that stuff. And that's the last piece of his Marvel stuff, if I'm not mistaken, was his Captain America run. I'm going to let you guys talk about that if you want to, because I've been talking for a minute.
Well, I haven't read it since it came out in floppy form, and I just ordered the trades for Dimension Z. So I can't remember a thing about it. I just remember I really liked it a lot. Do you remember it, Gio?
I think I read like the first trade. I barely remember. I have the image of John Romita Jr. drawing Captain America, and he's trapped in Dimension C, and it was pretty fun. I'm trying to figure out what the heck was going on and trying to escape and protecting. I think there was a little girl that he was protecting.
See, this is why you talk so much, Ryley, because we don't.
Yeah,
Well, I appreciate that you guys kind of helped me to realize that I do remember things a lot better than I think I do, that I read. But yeah, so he started with Dimension Z. Steve gets thrown into an alternate dimension that's run kind of by Baron Zemo. He's protecting a young boy that he meets.
Okay.
Yeah, so you had the kid thing right. So it was a young boy. So Steve gets stuck in there. For him, it's a really long time, but timey-wimey stuff is not very long in the real world. Sharon Carter goes in there to save him, pulls him out, and he pulls out, I think, the kid as well, but the kid by this time has aged and becomes a new nomad. They wind up going into different storylines after that. Dimension Z was really cool. There's another storyline that features Weapon Plus, but it's not Weapon Plus, it's Weapon Minus. And it has like Mind Bubble and at least one other character who's like genetically engineered mutation type stuff, as Weapon Plus was. But the biggest thing that he did in his run, probably not the biggest singular thing, but the biggest thing that it's known for, is that he was the one that gave the shield to Falcon. So he did write Falcon as Captain America for about 6 issues. He wrote Falcon as Captain America as part of Rage of Ultron, and I think he was also in Uncanny Avengers Volume 2, the short series. And And then after that, it went into Secret Wars. He did a Winter Soldier miniseries, The Bitter March, and he also did the Hail Hydra miniseries during Secret Wars. And then that was like his last work at Marvel. And that's when Nick Spencer took over, and he did all the things that we know Nick Spencer did with Captain America, and it was not received too well by most people. And
Yeah,
that's
people were
what
kind of angry
that's what
about
happened.
that.
Well, we got a lot of independent stuff that
So yeah,
Remender did. I remember reading the floppies of Black Science and really digging it. One thing I remember is we were all excited for the statue from this series.
Oh wow, I remember that. Yeah,
remember that? And then it ended up looking like a blow-up doll and looked awful.
that's right.
It was terrible.
Oh, but the model looked so boss. Of the model from this series looked so great,
because they use like the one that they show is like hand painted, handcrafted, and then the mold that they use, and then it creates all these other ones that are painted by a mass production line, and it just winds up looking not good at all. It's the same deal with when you see those images of like the Marvel Legends figures, and I love Marvel Legends. Obviously, I buy every one of the X-Men ones, but the pictures of them look so good. Like they look
the glam shots
intensely great, and then you get them and sometimes they have derpy eyes, and
derpy. I'll show you who's great still. Silk. She's still awesome.
Who is that?
That's a figure.
Derpy eyes?
No, she's awesome looking. I love Silk.
They've gotten really good though with the head sculpts and stuff.
Yeah.
From like when the Hasbro line started to now. Especially like the ones that are based off of the movies. Those look a lot better than they used to.
So, Gio, you want to explain Black Science to the audience? Can you?
Sure. Before I do, I was checking online, and that statue is going for cheap money. Not a lot of people like it.
There's a reason. Yeah, she looks like a blow-up doll.
It's like $80-$90 when it was originally like $150 or something like that. But anyways, Black Science is Remender's image book where he delves into the multiverse, if you will. Or in the comic, I believe they call it the Eververse, and they have like this concept where it's like an onion, and you peel away the onion until you get to the nucleus, the core, where supposedly the origin of the universe stems from, and all that stuff. It gets kind of trippy, but just know that it is a book about, it's like Lost in Space, but in the multiverse. You got Graham McKay and his family and co-workers and stuff, and they've just broken through the first layer. They've learned how to traverse the multiverse, but they get lost. The machine malfunctions, and they get stuck in an alternate dimension, and then they're trying to get back home. And it has some of the coolest artwork ever. I love that's Scalera, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I absolutely love that artwork, and it made me a fan of Remender, and it made me a fan of Scalera, and it has that edginess that I was talking about earlier. I know I'm probably using the term punkish wrong, but it has sort of that vibe, like no holds bar. It's grimy and dirty, but it's also really cool to look at. And I think Remender does that really well compared to other writers, where he's able to give that streets vibe to his adventures. And I think Black Science does that really well too.
You know what's fun about Scalera's art? It's like the smallest touch is it looks like he does this thing where he takes his ink brush and just like kind of flicks the bristles, and it creates spotting all over the pages and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's such a small thing, but it's something that I don't think many artists do, if not any others. And it adds this kind of I don't know a better word to say than like this kind of visceral feel to it.
Mhm.
I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I first noticed it when I was reading him on Secret Avengers. And there's a whole storyline that's taking place in like this really seedy, like was it in Bagalia, I think is where it was, and it's like, you know, all the bad guys are there, and yeah, it fits so well.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't know, it's just that one little thing, you know, just a tiny thing that he does that really just stands out for me with his artwork.
Plus, everybody is like sort of lanky and stretched out. It's distinct. It has a very distinct feel. But yeah, I when I first started reading Black Science was in floppies, and then I learned that we were going to have big hardcover editions, and that's when I decided to uh, stop reading floppies and get the
Yeah.
books. I don't know where the story's headed because I know like the last issue's just about to come out in a couple weeks or months.
Yeah, it's around the corner.
But I'm waiting for that eventually for that third hardcover so I can reread everything and figure out the series.
And us as well, some of us more than others, I guess, as you know, omnibus collectors, fans of prestige format books. He's the perfect creator to be a fan of.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because he gets so many of his books released in this format. Like, I don't remember what the first book that he had that they did in that format, but I know probably Fear Agent, which is another big one to talk about. But like Fear Agent and Crawl Space, Deadly Class, Black Science, Low, the End League. What was that? Gigantic, I think, got one.
Oh yeah, I got Gigantic too.
He puts out pretty much all of his material in these, you know, Remender sized books is what I wind up just referring to them as, which is great because his work is usually alongside an artist that deserves these huge absolute sized pages. Yeah, Fear Agent, that I think was probably my first non-Marvel book of Remender's that I read, and I really loved that series.
This one was kind of tough for me because the only reason it was
the subject matter.
Yeah, it was, as an alcoholic, it was pretty tough for me to get through it. It was really well written, but he's such a drunk that it was actually too well written for me to get through. It's really well written though.
I think that's because it comes from an alcoholic. Like, I'm pretty sure that if not alcohol, that Remender has struggled with substance abuse, and he's writing it from that perspective.
Well, he nails it. Yeah, he nails it so much so that it made me uncomfortable reading it.
He mentioned in the Deadly Class books that he had troubled upbringing as a teen and you know, substance abuse and all that stuff.
Oh, okay. This has Tony Moore and Jerome Opeña art in it.
So that was a big thing that drew me to wanting to try that out, was because A, Tony Moore, and B, seeing early Jerome Opeña artwork after seeing his amazing work on Uncanny XForce.
He gets the best.
He gets the best what now?
They're all pretty wonderful.
Yeah.
He gets all the best artists on his books.
Yeah. Yeah, Jerome, Tony, Matteo Scalera, Wes Craig, on Deadly Class is really great. He's done a lot of work with gosh, what's the artist who does Low, who did the Otherworld art? Tocchini, Greg Tocchini, and I know that his work on the Underworld arc of Uncanny X-Force was not very appreciated, but I feel like he wasn't paired with the same inker or something that he works with. I don't know what it was, but his work is just at another level on Low. And then for his newer stuff, he's got Jerome again on 7 to Eternity, and then he had the series. I think it's still ongoing. I think Jess mentioned it like last week or something with Bengal on artwork.
Oh, on Death or Glory?
Yeah.
Yeah, where is that? Where's Death or Glory? I have that there somewhere. I have that in my to read pile. That's probably under about 40 pounds of other Remender books. Yeah, I don't know where it is. Oh, there it is. It's under. It's right.
Do you want to talk about Rick Remender, babe? She said no.
Oh, well, it was nice to hear from her anyway.
Jess said it's nice to hear from you anyway. She laughed.
Here's Death or Glory.
I love that artwork so much.
Really boss.
Gio, are you the one who mentioned like Bengal's one of your favorites, or was that someone else in one of our chats?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's one of my favorites. Like, I think he captures, it's probably the colorist too, but he captures sort of like this blend of styles. I could see some manga artwork in there, and the colors are really vibrant and they pop. Whenever he's drawing, it just looks great to me. I loved his Batgirl stuff. That was really cool.
What Batgirl did he draw?
Burnside Babs.
Oh.
When she crossed over with Agent Dick Grayson.
Oh, okay. Did that Omni get canceled and not resolicited?
Mm-hmm.
That stinks.
Yep.
Oh yeah, the Batgirl of. I wasn't a fan of the. That's neither here nor there, but I wasn't a fan of the Batgirl Burnside stuff personally. Even though it had great artwork, the story didn't really hit it for me. But I would have been interested to if they would have done the Simone stuff prior, just so because I never read that, and I would have liked to have read that, and then I might have bought the Burnside stuff just to complete that little series.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is Death or Glory. I have no idea what the story is. If I stay up all night again tonight, maybe I'll get to it. I'll hallucinate. I'll start thinking I'm Rick Remender and start writing my own comics.
That would be awesome. The Omnidog Adventures.
The Omnidog Adventures.
I mean, look at that.
Like
that looks like a movie poster.
It's from Steve McQueen's Bullet.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, good call.
It reminds me like of a Tarantino poster or something.
Yeah.
You know, I think I like that Remender is not afraid to go all over the place with his stories, because you compare that book to Low and Black Science and even his Marvel stuff, they're all so different from each other.
Yeah. And even just like within the Marvel stuff, you have like X-Force, like really like bloody Black Ops, like nobody should ever know what we're doing superhero stuff. Secret Avengers being like the other side of that, with like the Avengers characters doing that stuff. Venom is this also an alcoholic character as a secret agent, and then you've got like his Captain America goes into like high sci-fi type things, which was a complete change, and I think that's why some people were not really with it, because we went from 100-something issues of Brubaker's book, which we talked about last week, to having Remender's sci-fi Captain America take. It's just completely like all over the place with the way that, you know, the types of books that he's writing, even though they're all superhero books. And then you go to his Image stuff, and it's just every type of book you can imagine. You know, like Seven to Eternity is like fantasy stuff. You've got high concept sci-fi with low and black science.
Tokyo Ghost, too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about Tokyo Ghost.
You want me to start
With, like,
showing
the
pages from that? That's
yeah,
the
that's
latest
a
one.
really beautiful one, man. That is forgot he worked with Sean Murphy.
Yeah.
That was a pretty damn book.
Sean does a lot of similar things, or at least to me, that Mateo does as well.
Yeah.
It's a very grungy work.
Yeah, I
Tokyo.
read this in floppies too before I picked it up, and I loved this book too. I thought the whole concept was just wild and interesting and cool.
I think Tokyo Go would have benefited from a little bit longer narrative. At some point in the book, it gets a little bit too sped up, and the ending as impactful as I would have liked. I would have wanted a little bit more world building just to figure out what the hell was going on. But it is a good story nonetheless. I like it. Yeah, the artwork when they go to Tokyo, I believe, is stunning.
Whoop.
I love that stuff.
The big old wiener
And
there.
there's a lot of not safe for work
Yeah. Let me make sure I don't
action
get
in
any
Tokyo Go.
wiener shots.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, look at that. That's awesome.
And again, that's why like his books benefit so much from being printed on these huge pages.
Yeah.
And that they're not big two books, that they are image, they're typically really fairly priced.
Yeah.
I think that one's probably what, $35, $40?
$40, yeah.
Yep.
And that's pretty typical, $40 to $50 for those big ass hardcovers, and they're typically like what, a dozen to 18 chapters each collected within, so you get a really good amount of content in a really large edition in a book that would definitely cost at least twice that much from any, from Marvel or DC, especially DC if you're comparing them to like absolute editions. So suffice to say, I'm a really big fan of his format of books that he's been putting out for Image, and I'm hoping that we do see like 7 to Eternity follow pretty soon.
Yeah, that's something I'd upgrade. I would upgrade from this format to this big, huge format. I would definitely do that.
This one reminded me, I think, of like Frank Miller's Ronin, but like more of a just to steal from Geo, the Remender's punky take on it.
It gives off an Akira and Ghost in the Shell vibe too, for some reason.
Yeah.
Good references.
He's not afraid to wear his references on his sleeve, I feel like. Like if you pick up on him, he's not afraid to push that stuff, and that's not, for me, it's not a problem. Because it's fun to read something from someone that they're in the same like headspace as you as far as like the things they're a fan of. It's always really fun, and he makes good work of it.
All right.
So what would be the favorites of it for you guys? Like, what would be your top book by him?
That would be this book.
Deadly Class.
That's a good choice.
That would be this book.
Mine would have to be Black Science because I love the multiverse and all that stuff.
That's fair.
No, we didn't talk about Deadly Class. So, Jess, what about that one makes it your favorite?
Well, you're taking a big risk asking me to answer any question with any kind of coherence tonight. I just love the idea of an assassin's school. The idea that you can get, first of all, is this 2 or 1? This is 2, so we're already into a different story arc than we start out with. But the idea that there's a school for assassins kids, criminal kids to grow up and be assassins, and they break off into little deadly cliques, and it's almost completely Lord of the Flies from the very beginning, is just amazing to me. And he really takes the time to flesh out each character, which I think is amazing in the short amount of time that you get in a comic book. That he manages to flesh out each character. There's the guy from Germany, the guy from Russia, and then there's the ninja chick, and then there's sort of the gangbanger guy, and they're I really he just does a really good job making you care about these characters, because the premise is really kind of to me kind of ridiculous. When you come up with a school for assassins, it's gotta go horribly wrong. 15-year-olds with weapons and hormones is just not going to go well at all. I mean, things didn't go well for me, and I didn't even have weapons, so I can't imagine giving 15-year-old Jess a bunch of ninja stars and letting him loose in a classroom would go well. So I just I love the whole storyline, and I love the artwork, and this also has that sort of punk ethos that Gio was talking about. It's got a playlist that's kind of like a new wave alternative thing going on, I think, on Spotify. I think he's got his playlist, or maybe Pandora, but I think it's Spotify. And another thing these big books come with is a lot of extras, because these big books have tons of extras in them, like covers and scripts and breakdowns of covers and breakdowns of pages. So if you're into that kind of thing, like I am, there's always good stuff in these books. I mean, you get down to the most basic breakdowns here, so it's really cool.
Now, is there anything else we haven't covered?
We haven't covered Low or the End League or 7 to Eternity.
No, I haven't read End League. I haven't read Gigantic, and I honestly like 7 to Eternity comes out so seldom that like I don't usually remember what's going on. But Low is definitely an interesting series.
Oh yeah, we didn't. He wrote Strange Girl too, but I can't reach that high right now. It'll hurt.
I also haven't read that one. I've not read Strange Girl before.
That one Ryan Sace didn't like the ending to it. Well, here's Low. If you want to talk about Low,
didn't I feature that, Jess?
What's that?
Didn't I mention? Did I talk about that book somewhere?
Strange Girl. I feel like you did.
Yeah. Didn't I mention that somewhere?
I feel
maybe
like
it was one of the compilations that we did with Kristan, I think.
That's exactly where you did it. Yeah, underappreciated books.
Yeah, not a lot of people know that it's a Remender book for some reason, but it's fun. It's a fun book. I like it. Yeah,
the hardcover's out of print. You can only get the soft cover now, but they're both the same size.
Yes.
Here's Low with the. Is there there's just one volume of Low right now, and we're waiting for what, volume 2?
Yeah, they're wrapping it up right now. No, it just came back. So it just came back from hiatus. They're going to wrap it up, and it should have enough material by the time it's wrapped up so that both volumes will be about equal in size.
Cool.
Okay, so here it is. And you guys, what is it? It's something under what? What? Here's a bunch of bit. No, can't show this.
There is definitely a lot of
nudity.
Not safe for work.
Yeah.
Underwater naked people.
Yeah, they're underwater, right?
Yeah, it's a version of the future where humans have, if I'm not mistaken, they've had to migrate underwater because of something happening to the surface.
The sun is growing into like a red nova thing. So the surface is you can't live on it because it's so hot. Everything died off. So humanity is living deep underwater. And there's pirates and monsters and weird stuff. It's a trippy book. I like it.
Yeah, it's cool. It's definitely one that, because of that big hiatus, I'm really looking forward to being able to reread it once it's done. Revisit it, kind of take it all in. Takchini's artwork there is definitely really special looking stuff. A lot. He has a real painted style, which works especially well for what they're doing here. And I think it's a little bit underappreciated compared to Deadly Class and Black Science.
It's more like cinematic, artsy compared to his other work, and that book is enormous, and it has only 15 issues. I'm surprised. Look at that. That's great. I love that.
Yeah, this book is big.
It's a very pretty series.
Yeah, 15 issues for $50 in this format, and you get it from IST. You know, the first day it comes out, it's 42 to 50% off, somewhere in that ballpark. It's amazing value.
Yeah, exactly what I was saying. Huge value with those books. They're well put together. I think they're stitched binding, except for one printing of Deadly
Black Science had some kind of binding issue.
Yeah, so they re-released that soon thereafter to have a better binding. But they're all very well put together books. You get to appreciate the artwork on these huge pages. I actually saw a guy, I don't remember if I mentioned this, but in another show, but I saw a guy at my work who popped in with a low shirt on. And I was like, I like your shirt. Yeah, because he said, I don't remember if I mentioned it on air or not, but he mentioned someone said that to me, and they were like, yeah, I love that band. And I was like, nah. And I started talking. I was like, yeah, I'm excited that Remender is finally finishing the series. It's been a minute. And he's like, yeah. We just talked about that real briefly. Just yeah, he's wrapping up a lot of stuff. That's really cool. All right, bye.
Did he think it was the band shirt that he was wearing?
No, he knew what was going on.
Oh, he knew? Okay.
He mentioned the other titles, because I said it's cool he's wrapping it up, and he's like, yeah, I think he's also wrapping up Black Science. And I'm like, yeah. Big things happening in the Remender world. So here's I'm going to answer my own question real quick. If I think obviously if I was to choose a favorite, Uncanny XForce is probably my favorite Remender book. Close second being Fear Agent. But if you could see him go back, and it doesn't necessarily have to be Marvel, but also DC, but to doing superhero books, what character or team do you think he would be really great at tackling?
I would like to see, and I'm a fanboy. Screw it. I would like to see his take on the royal family of the Inhumans, or the New Humans, the new characters that were invented a couple years ago from Charles Soule and stuff.
That didn't go where I thought you were going, Gio. I thought you were going to say, because I think that this would be really cool if he did Aquaman.
Oh, well,
wow.
I kept it with Marvel. Sorry, but yeah,
No,
if he were
that's
to
fine.
do DC books, I would love to see Justice League Dark done by him. Aquaman, maybe like a team of Aquaman family members,
I
stuff
think
like that.
his Aquaman could be really cool because he could mix like his, obviously Low is a sub-aquatic book, and mix kind of that tone with the kind of the high fantasy type stuff like we have in Seven to Eternity, and have something that explores Atlantis a lot more, kind of like some of the issues of during Dan Abnett's run, where he had Stepan Sajic or whatever, however you pronounce his name, was on art. I think that something like that would be really interesting to see from Remender. I could really imagine him writing Aquaman in the style of like the Peter David beard, long hair, hook hand, like really gruff warrior Aquaman. I think he would have a really cool take on that. It would be cool if he just did what he did at Marvel over at DC and had just this like universe of books that he slowly pieces together. You could even have, like you were saying, the Justice League Dark. You could have Aquaman on the Justice League Dark. This Aquaman who's fought through the trench, who's lost a lip and has seen it. He's seen this darker mystical side of what's underneath the surface. I can imagine like a crossover, kind of like the Witching Hour that they did with Wonder Woman, but to have something with like the rest of the League, characters like Etrigan and Animal Man, maybe Animal Man using his ability to take on animal attributes to go underwater, visit Atlantis with Aquaman. I don't know. I'm just spitballing like an entire story idea.
I love it.
That I'm sad because it's not going to happen. But maybe I should put pen to paper and send it to someone. I don't know. But what about what do you got, Jess? What do you think?
Well, his was the first Deadpool I ever read, and I've always loved it.
Say that.
So that's the Deadpool that I measure all other Deadpools to. So I would love to see him come back and give me some Deadpool stuff. Yeah, some solo Deadpool stuff.
That's definitely, like, that was on my wish list a while ago too, because he did such a good job, I think, with the character in Uncanny X-Force.
Yeah,
in that he was like this dark, gross character. Like that, you showed the scene of him feeding Angel in that one issue. Like that's the kind of stuff. It's like it goes beyond what we would get in the ongoing Deadpool series, especially at that time because it was the Daniel Way series that was going on. And I always thought that he had such a good voice for the character, and that he took him 100% seriously as a character, but still utilized his comedic tone to act as kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? Like something of an antithesis to the serious tone of the storylines that were going on.
Right.
Where you'd have everything's really serious, and then Deadpool would come out and make a stupid joke, and it worked. It worked so well because he wasn't the focus. So I feel like maybe if he took Deadpool as the focus character, the focal character of the storyline, he could do some really interesting stuff with him. But I think if I was to look at Marvel, and maybe it's just my current headspace that's saying it, but actually two ideas. I was going to say Spider-Man. I think it'd be interesting to see what he does with Spider-Man, because it would be a different take from what we usually get with the character, still retaining the fun that we're used to, but also going into more of like the darker, like the 80s stories, like Kraven's Last Hunt. I feel like he could kind of channel that, but also it would be cool to see him on a character like the Hulk, because the Hulk is so malleable. Different creators really put their voice into that character in different ways that you see something entirely different every single series.
Cool.
But I'm excited mostly for him taking over on Aquaman. That's never going to happen.
I'm just excited that he's finishing up all these other series. He's finishing up what? Low? He's finishing up, what'd you say else? Low?
Black Science.
Black Science.
Black Science.
And I feel like he might be going somewhere with Deadly Class too. Like, is that coming towards a conclusion at all? I know they canceled the series, the TV show.
Yeah.
To I've seen a lot of people that were upset about that, but
I still have to watch it. I've watched 2 episodes, so I need to keep watching it. If you want any of these books and they're still in print, InStockTrades.com is the place to get them. Up to 50% off. Loyalty discounts add 2% to that. There's an Omniboslive discount code, which I will give you at the end of this spiel, which is going to be 3% off total. When you put the code in, you get an automatic 3% off. Your order does not stack with the 2%, but you get 3% off. Loyalty discounts, I covered that already. So why am I saying that? I don't know. Over $50 in the United States gets you free shipping. Fabulous customer service. Fabulous packaging. That's InStockTrades.com. And I forget the code. What is the code, Gio?
The code is Gio is the best. No, I'm kidding.
It's a Father's Day one.
Is can I say it?
Well, yeah, but you can, okay. Here's the thing: you can't use it until midnight 01 tonight, Thursday. Okay. Thursday, so Friday morning at midnight 01 to Sunday at 11:59 p.m.
At what Eastern? Is that
Eastern Standard Time? Correct.
So what is that for me?
I don't know. You're gonna have to do the math.
It's 8:19. It's 8:20 right now for me. So is that?
It's 9:20 here.
An hour.
So I can use it.
So it would be 1 in the morning.
So 1 in the morning for me. So I might as well use it tomorrow when I wake up, because I'll wake up 3 hours later. But the code is OmniDads.
OmniDads.
Omni, OMNI, Dads, DADS.
Right.
That's going to help you get a 3% savings as opposed to the regular 2% savings. You don't have to have the loyalty discount to have that 3%. It is a 3% off discount code. You can use that all weekend from Friday the 14th through Sunday the 16th. So all you OmniDads out there, get yourself a Father's Day gift, get your father a day gift, get your mom a late Mother's Day gift. I don't know, get your dog a gift. It doesn't matter. You've got an extra percentage off to spend.
3%.
Use it wisely.
Use it, clear out that wish list.
That's what I'm going to do. I have a big wish list.
Get Black Science in my honor.
Get the Hulk by Jeff Loeb and Ed McGuinness omnibus in my honor.
True.
Because I'm gonna get it. That's what I'm using this for, and I'm gonna hate myself, but I like love that series. It's such a guilty pleasure for me. Like, it's so stupid fun. It's in the same level for me as like the first part of Dan Way Deadpool. It's stupid, but it's fun, and it introduced one of my favorite characters with the Red Hulk, and it led into one of my favorite comics with Jeff Parker's Red Hulk. So
right, That was a recommendation, a big recommendation.
Strong recommendation.
What's that?
And Red She-Hulk too.
Yeah, he did
Red She-Hulk.
He introduced the Red She-Hulk. Didn't introduce those actual characters, but he introduced those versions of those characters. So yeah, that's a thing that got an omnibus. So we went years without having any Hulk omnibuses, and then we got the Greg Pak stuff, which makes sense. And then all of a sudden they hit us with this one out of nowhere, and then we're getting Peter David.
Yeah, when's that one coming out? January?
You gotta ask Omar, because Omar's the man with the plan. He's the one that knows everyone now.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the insight. He knows about Black Bolt.
He does.
Oh, that was so awesome. I love it. Everybody should get that.
That series is so good. I really, 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 really want them to, and I don't know if it'll happen, but I want them to do the same treatment for Royals as well, because they work so well together, and Royals was a really cool series.
Yeah, they go hand in hand, those two series.
Royals and what?
Black Bolt.
Black Bolt.
Black Bolt. Right. I've read those two books. They're great.
All right, guys. Anything else to gush about as far as Remender goes?
I read and loved Seven to Eternity, the three books. I'm very spaced out right now due to lack of sleep and amount of medicine in me. But I think the knock on this is that Opeña's art takes so long because it's so detailed and gorgeous. I think this is what the holdup is in this book. It is just absolutely gorgeous. The story's fantastic. But I think the knock is that it's just taking so darn long for him to tell the story because Opeña takes so long to do it. And I understand why it's taken so long, because the artwork is astonishing and the story is freaking fantastic.
So what's the story of this series? Because like I mentioned before, it comes out so seldom that I completely forget every single time.
Yeah, I'm gonna do everybody a service and just read the back, because if I try and do it myself right now, I'll gack it all up. The God of Whispers has spread an omnipresent paranoia to every corner of the land. His spies hide in every hall, spreading mistrust and fear. Adam Osidis, a dying knight from a disgraced house, must choose between joining a hopeless order of magical warriors and mercenaries in their desperate bid to free their world of the evil god, or accepting the god's promise to give Adam everything he's ever dreamed of. Once this god appears to you and you accept his promise, then you're like captured and part of his kingdom, part of this god's kingdom on this planet. All men have surrendered their freedom for fear. Now one last free man must choose between the fate of the world and his own heart's desire. So this god appears like this is him, this particular god, and he rules the world because he makes promises to everyone, and everyone accepts the promise, and then they belong to him. And this one guy is the lone holdout, and his father was a rebel and a renegade and held true to these certain values and put a lot of pressure on this one guy. And there's all these different races and creatures and human-like things, but I don't know. It's hard to explain. I'm not doing a good job, but it's really remarkable. I think if you want a better explanation, get pre-surgery Jess on my channel when I reviewed it.
Maybe I prefer post-surgery Jess.
Maybe you like me better this way. The code for the quarter, Adam Knapp, the code for the quarter is Omnidads to celebrate Father's Day. Adam Osiris and the Mosak must travel a swamp where no one ever dies to deliver the Mud King to the... Oh, yeah. They capture the god, and then they're getting ready to turn him in. God, it covers a lot of territory. They capture the god, and they're getting ready to turn him in, and to, like, Mud King, the only force strong enough to undo his stranglehold on the world, though the Mud King's whispers have made Adam and his family hated throughout. When he offers Adam a solution to all his troubles, will Adam hold fast or betray his principles?
Sounds pretty awesome.
It is great. And it's so complex and so mysterious that I could easily read it again and pick up new things that I didn't catch the first couple times I read it. I read it twice to review it. Yeah, maybe I should talk about Civil War II right now since I'm so loopy. So yeah,
I want to read those trades, but I'm waiting for that deluxe edition, so I haven't picked up the trades.
Because you know it's gonna happen. It's gonna be released.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I guess you got to wait until. What you think that he's just going to go ahead and release the first? It's up to issue 13 in this third trade. So I mean, I guess you could release that he's got low 15 issues, so he could just release that. Mm-hmm. 3 trades in an oversized Herkin thing.
Probably, yeah.
Well, I would definitely upgrade that if it was a big library edition sized thingamajig. So that's pretty much it, I think.
That's it.
Covered
That's a wrap, guys.
Yep.
I think we covered everything we need to cover. Any questions from the chat that we need to address? Please don't ask me to do math. This is not the...
It's not the time for that.
No.
Give me all the prime numbers from 1 to 100.
Oh, boy.
Prime numbers. Question: how did the new edition of Black Science Volume 1 expand on the original printing? I've got an OG one with fine binding, but I've seen that the new one is so much chunkier.
I don't remember what it adds.
I think it had extra bonus material that was not in the first book, but it's the same exact issue count.
Like it might have had scripts and stuff like that. Kind of bonus material would be what it would have.
Yeah.
But the main thing was number one, there was an issue with like pages that were printed with faded word bubbles, stuff like that. And then I think it was the binding was not good on one of them.
The first print was glued, and then they did the sewn band.
Okay. Yeah. So they improved that for sure.
Yep.
G. Scott says, Jess looks so beaten down. I'm just exhausted. I'm not beaten. I'm just very, very tired. Talk about Remender's Atom, Mr. Awesome says, in Adventure Comics. Oh. That is something I don't know about.
I had no idea he did that.
That was, I think, I think I might have mentioned it before the show, or maybe at the
I
very
think you
beginning.
did mention it
But
before the show.
It was during the time that Gail Simone was writing the Atom. He had a very short run on that, but I haven't read that, so I cannot talk about it myself.
Didn't he work on? I think I read Booster Gold, too.
I'm not familiar with that, if that is true.
Let me check. Hold on. Before we
Am
move.
I talking too slow for you, Gabriel? I usually watch these shows at 1.25 speed. I may have to go to 1.5 speed when Jess talks for the show.
There's a book out there, and it says that Remender has credit on it, but I don't know.
On which book is it?
Booster Gold. Let me check.
He also did a single issue of the Thunderbolts. This was after Andy Diggle, right before Jeff Parker. And it was a single issue that dealt with, I think, Luke Cage and Iron Fist. For some random reason, they were involved with this.
2008 is the Booster Gold series.
I don't remember what he did with that. I don't know if it was art or if it was just.
He did write a couple issues because I'm seeing some covers, and it's Rick Remender with Patrick O'Leaf. I don't know if I said that right.
Interesting. I have not.
I think the last Booster Gold I read was Crisis on Infinite Earths, like in 1985.
You crazy. All right. Well, I got to get going. My wife is probably waiting for me at this time.
And where can we find you? We've talked about InStockTrades.com, and their code for this quarter is Omnidads. So wait until 12:01 a.m. tonight to go for it, and that would be the code for this quarter. And where can they find you, Ryley Mo?
They can find me on my channel, Ryley Mo, Ryleymo, or just search Omnibus Collector and you'll find me on there. Excuse me. I think I have allergies hitting me right now. I'll be doing a couple videos probably the next time I'm off of work. Similar to last month, I'll have one review video and one haul video popping up.
Nice.
Okay. 3 Eastern Standard Time? No, it's tonight, midnight Eastern Standard Time. Midnight 01, 12:01, Friday morning. Just Friday morning to Sunday night.
Yeah. Yeah, just
Friday morning to Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
You can work that out. Just logged back in. Good code. I'm an Omnidad. Right on, ETL.
Nice.
And Gio, where can they find you?
You can find me at A Week in Geekdom here on YouTube, where I talk about anime, manga, comics, and everything else in between. That's A Week in Geekdom.
And you can find me, Omnidog, on Omnidog's Vault on YouTube and Omnidogs_Vault on Instagram. So thank you to the chat for being patient with me tonight. Thank you to my co-hosts for being patient with me tonight and for being so knowledgeable. That was excellent job tonight on Rick Remender. And we will see you on Sunday at noon.
Mm-hmm.
That's our next show, and Omnidads is the code. So happy Father's Day to all you Omnidads out there. Peace and love. Peace and love. Thank you, Highlighter.